Good morning, everybody. Nadia here again with another reading from the Truth Scriptures Ta'anak, and this morning I'm going to be reading Uiyqara, sign name Leviticus chapter 15. Then Yahweh spoke to Marsha and to Aaron, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, Any man who has a discharge from his genitals is unclean. The cause of his uncleanness is his discharge, whether his body is releasing the discharge or his body has stopped the discharge. He is unclean. Any bed that someone lays on that has an issue with this type of discharge shall be unclean, and everything that he sits on shall be unclean. Anyone who touches his bed must wash their clothes, bathe themselves in water, and be considered unclean until evening. Anyone who sits on anything where a man who has an issue with discharge must wash their clothes, bathe in water, and be considered unclean until evening. Anyone who touches the body of a man who has a discharge issue must wash their clothes, bathe themselves in water, and be considered unclean until evening. If the one with the discharge spits on someone who is clean, then that person must wash their clothes, bathe themselves in water, and be considered unclean until evening. Every saddle that a man with a discharge issue sits on shall be unclean. Anyone who touches anything that has been under such a man shall be unclean until evening. Anyone who carries such items must wash their clothes, bathe themselves in water, and be considered unclean until evening. If a man with a discharge issue touches someone without first rinsing his hands in water, the person he touched must wash their clothes, bathe themselves in water, and be considered unclean until evening. Any earthen container that is touched by a man with a discharge issue must be broken, and any wooden tool must be rinsed in water. When a man with a discharge issue is cleansed of the issue, then he counts off 7 days for his cleansing. He must wash his clothes, bathe in running water, and then he shall be clean. On the 8th day he shall take 2 turtle doves and 2 young pigeons, and come before Yahweh at the entrance of the tent of appointment, and give them to the priest. The priest shall offer them, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. In this way the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahweh because of his discharge issue. If a man has a discharge of semen, he must bathe his entire body in water and shall be unclean until evening. Any clothing or skin which has an emission of semen on it must be washed with water and shall be unclean until evening. If a man has sexual intercourse with a woman and has an emission of semen, both of them must bathe themselves in water, and they shall be unclean until evening. Whenever a woman has a discharge of blood from her normal bodily discharge, she shall be unclean and due to her menstruation for 7 days. Anyone who touches her shall be unclean until evening. Anything she sits or lies on during her menstruation period shall be unclean. Anyone who touches her bed must wash their clothes, bathe in water, and shall be unclean until evening. Anyone who touches anything which she sat on must wash their clothes, bathe in water, and shall be unclean until evening. If anyone touches something where she has been laying or sitting, they shall be unclean until evening. If a man has sexual intercourse with her, and her menstruation gets on him, he shall be unclean for 7 days. Any bed she lies on shall be unclean. If a woman has an issue of discharging blood for a long time, which is not part of her normal menstrual period, or any discharge beyond her normal menstrual period during those times shall be like the period of her menstruation. She is considered unclean during those times. Any bed she lays on during any period of discharge should be treated like a bed she uses during her menstruation period. Anything that she sits on shall be considered unclean, just as the time of her menstrual period. Anyone who touches those things she was on shall be unclean. They must wash their clothes, bathe in water, and they shall be unclean until evening. But if she is cleansed of her discharge issue, then she shall count off 7 days, and after that she shall be clean again. On the 8th day she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons and bring them to the priest, to the entrance of the tent of appointment. The priest shall offer the one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering. In this way the priest shall make atonement for her before Yahuwah because of her unclean discharge. You must separate the children of Uiyqara during their uncleanness, so that they do not die because of their uncleanness, by making my dwelling place, which is in their midst, unclean. This is the law concerning those with discharge issues. This goes for men with unclean semen discharges and women during their menstrual period, men and women with discharge issues, and men who have had sexual intercourse with an unclean woman. Sorry guys, I just changed the page.